UTPD detectives identified the suspect as University of Texas student Rolando Benavides, another resident of Jester Residence Hall. Investigations and mitigation began to coordinate with our university partners and the Travis County District Attorney's Office. And within 2 hours of identifying Benavides as a suspect, we conducted an interview of him. And upon completion of the interview, Benavides left campus, withdrew from the university, and was subsequently barred from campus. The investigation revealed that Benavides unlawfully gained entry into 3 different unoccupied dorm rooms within Jester Residence Hall. And when he was in the rooms, he committed sexual acts with the victim's property, to include clothing, toiletries, and food items, and then posted photographs of his behavior on a fetish website. During the course of his burglaries, he also stole items from several of the rooms. We initially identified 6 victims from the dorm room, and while pursuing charges for those 6 victims, identified 2 other victims from an incident related to the first incidents. This afternoon at around noon, 2 felony burglary habitation charges were filed against Benavides. The court set bond stipulations to include a GPS monitor, no contact order with the victims, and he's restricted to be at least 200 yards away from the university property. With the 2 additional victims identified at the end of last week, this does remain an active investigation. So we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. But right now, our goal is to not re-victimize the victims and make sure that we can fulfill the rest of our investigation without hindering that process. Does anybody have any questions about the investigation or the suspects or victims?
Yeah, I'm with Fox 7. Curious what year the student was?
The student was a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm with the Daily Texan. I do have a few questions. So in regards to the number of victims for each incident, there was 6 for the one on April 13th and then 2 other victims. Was that from one incident or 2 separate incidents?
It was from one incident. So each incident is related, 2 victims per one residence hall room.
Okay.
A total of 4 rooms that we believe were burglarized with a total of 8 victims.
Do y'all believe that there are other victims who have yet to come forward about the situation?
While we're still processing evidence, the interesting thing about this case is that it was reported to us by an anonymous emailer. And thankful to him that he stood up and took care of his community and brought this to light. The way that the crimes were committed, it's very likely that victims may not be aware that they were victimized. So we're really going to have to rely on the processing of some digital evidence to try to help identify more victims. It's likely that there's more, but we certainly hope not. And that's why this remains an ongoing investigation, so that we can certainly find all the victims that have been impacted in our community.
Mm-hmm. Since there aren't cameras in the dorm rooms, what kind of evidence was left behind for yeah.
Most of the evidence that was left behind was actually left by the suspect. The suspect posted all of his happenings on a fetish website, and the anonymous user either recognized the dorm room or was known to the suspect. And that's what led us to find out who he was. Things in the background, different identifying features of the suspect, other electronic information that was available to us through subpoena and search warrant once we got started in the investigation.
So when it came to finding the other victims, did they come forward? Did you reach out to that specific dorm and tell people to see if they had anything missing, or what was that process?
Well, thankfully, given the pictures that the suspect did post, He did include some photographs that he had taken of the actual victims, victims that had posted pictures of themselves and their friends on the walls of the dorm rooms. We were able to use those and partner with our campus partners in housing and some of our district reps that had contacts in the dorm rooms to solidify who the victims were. And then our biggest goal after that was to get in contact with Student Emergency Services, our Victims Advocate Network, and really take care of the victims prior to notifying them what happened to them.
You may not be able to answer this, but the student who did this, or I'm sorry, the anonymous email that was sent, are you able to say, or do you know if that was a resident or if that was one of the people that had this happen to them or anything like that?
I wish we knew who it was so we could thank them, but unfortunately the email server that they used to send it is fairly secure and anonymous. I hope maybe after this becomes public, the reporting party comes forward so the community can thank him. But at this point, we're kind of at an end to figure out who it is.
Hi, I do have a few more questions. So since UT students have to scan their ID in order to get into dorms, especially right now due to COVID, did the suspect live in the dorms or how did he get in?
The suspect was a resident of Jester East.
Okay. And have the photos that were posted been taken down?
Requests have been made to the website to remove the photographs. I'm not sure at this time if they have or not.
Yeah, and I guess my last question is, how was the suspect identified?
The suspect was initially identified by Wi-Fi data. There was a search warrant made on folks that had accessed the website. And by eliminating other people and using some other corroborating evidence, we assumed that it was Roland Benavides. We brought him in for an interview, and some of the things that we talked about confirmed that. And then ultimately, we were able to compare photographs that he posted online, which didn't include his face, to photographs that we got in our investigation through a search warrant, and some very specific characteristics on his body were absolute matches.
Okay, I don't want to take up too much time, but my last question, I think, is what is UTPD doing right now to ensure this doesn't happen again with another suspect or other victims?
So initially, we have to make sure that we don't have any more victims, and that's step one. Step two is an educational process to remind people to be secure in their own homes, their own residence halls, and lock their doors, and then encourage folks to take care of one another in the community. Or if you see something that you think is wrong or something that's not right, people are treating somebody wrong, you can always reach out to our department, and we're going to investigate it promptly and thoroughly, and get the folks that are acting wrong off campus.
Any further questions?
Is that it? Anyone have any more questions? No, and if you have any more questions, y'all can forward anything to our PIO via email. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.